Hello, my dear students. Welcome once again to our grammar virtual class. Today, we would be learning another types of object, that is object of the preposition, or we can call it prepositional object. This topic, you would find it in page number 51, okay? 51 in your textbook. So let us see what is this object of the preposition or prepositional object. Well, we have learned that a verb is said to be transitive when there's a presence of a direct object. This is what we have learned, right? We called a verb as a transitive verb when there's an object to receive the action. For example, the little girl sang a song. Now here, the little girl is the subject, saying is the verb, and who is receiving the action? The thing or the person? It's a thing. So a song. A song is receiving the action sing, right? So we call this sentence as transitive verb. But a verb which has no object is said to be used intransitively. So we call a verb intransitive when there is no object after the verb, right? So to be an object in a sentence, to be a subject and object in a sentence, I have told you that it has to be a thing or person. That means it has to be a noun, okay? So here, in the second example, the little girl sang sweetly. Now here, the little girl is the same, the subject remains the same, sing is the verb. Now here, there's no noun after the verb, right? It is just telling us how the girl sang. It is not as telling us what the girl sang, right? I told you to find out the object in a sentence, we have to ask the question what, right? You just have to ask the question what. Now in this sentence, if you ask the question, what did the little girl sing? Are you getting the answer? No, there's no answer. But instead, it is telling us how the girl sang, which is not our answer. So this is called, such kind of examples are called intransitive verbs. Now we have a verb. Now this is a definition of object of the preposition, okay? Or we can call it the prepositional object. So what is a prepositional object? A verb which has no object, okay? Or listen here very carefully, okay? A verb which has no object or is followed by a preposition which indicates an object in a sentence is called object of the preposition. So here, object of the preposition will always be, object of a preposition, it will always be preceded by, that means it will always be let, okay? Preceded means that will come before. So before the object of the preposition, there will always be a preposition before them, and then the object that comes after the preposition is called the object of the preposition. For example, the little girl sang to me. Here we have no direct object. I told you to ask the question what, right? To find the direct object. So what the little girl sang? There's no answer. It is not telling us what she's saying, but it is just telling us to whom she's saying, right? So I told you, here we have no direct object, but instead the little girl sang to me. Now here to is a preposition, and the next word that follows to is your object of the preposition. So here me is the object of the preposition. However, for example, if we rewrite the sentence, okay, if the sentence is modified as the little girl sang a ballad to me. Now here, the example, the little girl sang a ballad to me. In this example, we have a direct object. What did the little girl sing? Here the answer is ballad. Now here, ballad is the direct object, and also we have an object of the preposition. So the word that the preposition here we have is to. So after the word to, there is me. So here Me is the object of the preposition, as well as we have a direct object. Unbalanced. We also change the order of the subjects in a sentence without changing its meaning. So what happens? You don't have to get confused, okay? We can change the order of a object. That means the order of the object will be changed. Sometimes it would appear first, or sometimes it would appear after the direct object, or sometimes it will appear before the direct object. But you don't have to get confused, okay? Because the meaning remains the same, even though we change the order of the subject first, even though we place it in the first or second, but still then you need not to be confused because the meanings remains the same. As in the example, the little girl sang a ballad to me. Now here we can rewrite this sentence as the little girl sang me a ballad. Now what is the difference that you see in these two examples? In the first example, now here the little girl sang a ballad to me. Now here we have a direct object, ballad, and to me is the object of the preposition. In the second example, the little girl sang me a ballad. Now here we have an indirect object. Yes or no? Are you getting it? So if there's an indirect object, there will not be an prepositional object. And if we want to write the sentence with a prepositional object, then that time we will not have an indirect object. I think you're getting me. So, but there will always be there cannot be an indirect object without a direct object, because the action of the direct object is being received by the indirect object. Now let's see the second example. Rama gave the notes to me. Here also we can rewrite the sentence as Rama gave me the notes. In the first example, Rama gave the notes to me. Here we have one direct object and we have a prepositional object. In the second sentence, we have an indirect object as well as a direct object. I hope you're getting it clear. Okay, so in both examples, the meaning remains the same, but only the order of the object is changed. So one important thing for you to remember is there can be no indirect object without a direct object. I keep telling you this one, right? So you have to remember this, okay? Now, in order to identify the different object in a sentence, okay? For you to identify the different object in a sentence, there's a way, okay? A very simple way, and that is to ask the question. Now here, to find the direct object, you just have to ask the question, what did the little girl sing? Here the answer is a ballad. So here it is your direct object. To find an indirect object, whom did the little girl sing to? Me. So here me is the indirect object. Now, how to find a prepositional object? Well, it is very easy to find a prepositional object because they always have a preposition before them. Like I told you, before the prepositional object, they will always be preceded by a preposition. And whereas direct and indirect objects never do. An indirect object is always preceded by its verb. So here, in this example, let me show you the example once again. Can you see the second example? The second example in both example 1 and 2. The little girl sang me a ballad. Rama gave me the notes. Now here, an indirect object is always preceded by the verb. Now look here once again. Rama gave me the notes. Here, Rama is the subject, gave is the verb, right? So indirect object will always follow the verb, right after the verb, indirect object. While a direct object is either preceded by its verb, indirect object, if it exists. So, the direct object, Rama gave me the notes. Now here, the notes is the direct object, right? So the notes is been preceded. That means ahead of the verb, ahead of the direct object, there is a indirect object. So these are the ways to find an direct and indirect object. Direct object will always be preceded by the indirect object, whereas indirect object will always be preceded by a verb. Right after the verb, indirect object will appear, and right after indirect object, there would be your direct object. Whereas in prepositional object, there will always be a preposition before the object. I hope this is clear to all of you. This is what we have for today. In the next class, we would learn another classification of verbs, that is auxiliary verbs.